Chicago's very own 9 o'clock news.
Raging floodwaters and mudslides are wreaking havoc tonight in Southern California. There's been substantial property damage and several people are reported to have lost their lives. Good evening, I'm Rick Rosenthal.
And I'm Allison Payne. As the rain continues to fall along the Pacific coast, the death count there continues to rise. So far, the storms have claimed 5 lives, but authorities are still looking for several missing people. Hal Fishman has been monitoring the situation all day and has this report.
A fierce Pacific storm hit the coast of Southern California early this morning. Hundreds of homes were flooded in 4 counties, while freeways and canyon roads were closed by mudslides, flooding, and accidents. 10 inches of rain was recorded in less than 12 hours in some areas. In Ventura County, flash floods inundated a motorhome park near the Pacific Ocean. Several RVs were washed out of the park into floodwaters and smashed into bridges downstream. Dozens of people took shelter on the roofs of automobiles and recreational vehicles while waiting for the helicopters to come to rescue them.
Beautiful job by County 6 there. He's hovering right on top of that truck. Wants to get there so they can walk in. We're going to clear out for him here. County 6, I have you in sight. We're clearing out for you.
The scene was repeated all morning. Time after time, the helicopters would swoop down and hover just long enough for the people to scramble on board. It wasn't just people, though. Even a dog caught in a swift current was guided by rescuers to safety. The rescue teams went from trailer to trailer looking for people trapped by the rising flood waters. One of the firemen suddenly found himself cut off by the rising flood, holding on until he too could be rescued. 2 deputy sheriffs in a small fiberglass boat pulled him out of the water. Another team of rescuers used an inflatable hovercraft to search the RV park and nearby brush where a number of homeless people had been spotted earlier. One body was recovered from the stream and is thought to be one of the transients. Throughout the region, it was a scene that Southern Californians could scarcely believe, coming on the heels of 6 years of drought. And streams that were dry only a few days ago are now overflowing their banks. In Los Angeles, I'm Hal Fishman, WGN News.
Unfortunately, no end is in sight for Southern California. The National Weather Service says more storms are expected in the coming days.
Here in Chicago, police tonight are saying they've broken up a burglary ring that's hit at least a half a dozen homes in the past month or so. 7 people have been arrested and face charges in connection with the operation that involved break-ins in the city and in suburban Addison, Park Ridge, and Libertyville. Police estimate they have recovered about $75,000 worth of merchandise stolen by the ring, a wide variety of jewelry, clothing, home electronics, and other valuables. One undercover officer who asked to remain unidentified estimated the total loss was 4 times what police have recovered.
At the present time, we approximately have 7 or 8 burglaries with a net loss of approximately $300,000.
Police say this man, Frank DiVenere, engineered the burglaries out of his North Harlem Avenue import store by gathering information about customers and friends who then became targets.
The owner of the store, it's an import store, would gather names up and he would write them on a slip of paper, contact a intermediary who would then contact the Polish immigrants.
Polish immigrants, including 19-year-old Radoslav Gogol, were used, police think, because the ringleaders felt their difficulty speaking English might shield the operation. The burglars were given solid information about their victims.
They were told, they were given instructions as to when the people would be home and what to look for in money and jewelry.
22-year-old Rosie Wadilla, the one woman arrested, faces charges of felony theft, receiving stolen property. The 4 other suspected burglars face charges of burglary and burglary conspiracy. Charges are also pending against DiVenere and Luigi Bonanno, the man police say did the recruiting and actually ran the burglars' operations.
The California psychiatrist who said John Hinckley Jr. was not insane when he shot President Reagan says serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer isn't insane either. Despite the diagnosis from Dr. Park Dietz in the Hinckley case, a jury found Hinckley not guilty by reason of insanity. But as Roseanne Tejas reports, prosecutors in the Dahmer case believe the doctor will be more convincing this time around.
Jeffrey Dahmer says he would never have killed if he could have found a long-term partner to enjoy sexually.
The favorite activities he describes are what he often refers to as light sex: kissing, touching, rubbing, hugging.
But Dahmer told Dr. Park Dietz his male companions always wanted more than he was willing to give, so he turned to the bizarre notion of creating zombies to fulfill his sexual desires. He went so far as to drill holes in the heads of 4 of his victims, and using a baster poured acid and water into their brains. They did not survive.
He considered another possibility, which was drilling a hole more at the top of the skull and inserting some electrical apparatus, plugging this into the wall to try to use electricity to achieve the goal.
Dahmer told Dietz he didn't have the technical knowledge to follow up, but he had another idea after watching a news story about freeze-drying pets.
And he thought that if he'd been able to freeze-dry one of the more attractive men, that he would not have had a desire for the other victims.
Dahmer actually located a piece of equipment to do the job, but at $30,000 he couldn't afford it. So he says he settled for killing and dismembering his victims. But he had to drink heavily to go through with it. He later developed a sexual interest in body organs.
We don't generally choose what we will find sexy. It happens to us in ways we're not quite aware of. What humans do choose is whether they will act on their sexual interests or not.
Dr. Dietz says Dahmer knew what he was doing was wrong and had the power to stop. In fact, he told the psychiatrist that if someone had seen him about to commit a murder, he would certainly have stopped. But he says killing was a means to an end, a way to get a body, and he did it 17 times. Throughout this trial, Dahmer's attorney Gerald Boyle has said that just because Dahmer occasionally exercised control, that doesn't mean he could always do so. It's a point he'll stress to jurors in his closing statements, which are now expected to begin Friday. In Milwaukee, Roseanne Tejas, WGN News.
And Roseanne says Dahmer's attorney will get his chance to cross-examine Dr. Dietz tomorrow, and he's expected to be the very last witness.
President Bush today finally made official what everyone has assumed for months, that he is indeed running for re-election. The announcement came at a carefully orchestrated GOP rally in Washington. WGN's John Aubuchon was there.
And I have an announcement to make.
This was no great political secret, you understand.
I want to continue serving as your president 4 more years, so from this moment...
George Bush has been running for re-election for weeks, months now, running hard lately since polls told him he had a real fight on his hands, that Pat Buchanan has a real chance of embarrassing him in the New Hampshire Republican primary. The official announcement event was a pep rally. Nearly 2,000 of the most faithful packed into a hotel ballroom. He played to his strengths, letting his popular wife introduce him. He did not mention Buchanan, but he did take a swing at Buchanan's America First isolationist speechmaking.
Our national bird is the eagle, not the ostrich.
But he took an even harder swipe at the Democratic-controlled Congress, suggesting the Bush campaign strategy on the economy.
You can blame the Democrats.
Political analyst Steve Hess recalls that just a year ago, George Bush looked as though he could almost waltz to re-election.
He wasn't paying attention to the American economy. And with numbers this bad, any president, incumbent president, is going to be in a real horse race.
We're in a tough fight, and I am determined to win, and I will win.
So with $11 million in his pocket, his campaign war chest so far, and with his approval ratings down in the low 40s, George Bush headed off to fight for the right to stay in the White House. He's waving his Desert Storm victory and the death of communism like trophies at every stop, and invoking the familiar conservative family values that helped Ronald Reagan win 2 terms. But even some Bush advisors fear that unless the economy turns around by November, George Bush could get the blame and the boot. In Washington, John Aubuchon, WGN News.
And after the announcement, Bush flew to New Hampshire to try and rally support there. He met with patrons at the Backroom restaurant, shaking hands and exchanging small talk. In New Hampshire, the president continued to stress his foreign policy successes and to predict a reversal of the dismal economy. The president will be back in New Hampshire on Saturday for a 2-day campaign blitz before the Tuesday primary. The Bush campaign, however, was dealt a small blow today. The Boston Herald endorsed his primary opponent, conservative columnist Pat Buchanan.
Still in politics, Democratic presidential hopeful Bill Clinton is trying to put to rest questions about him and the Vietnam War draft. Today, he released a letter in which he declined to enter the ROTC in 1969. Clinton went public with the letter after ABC News received a copy. In the letter, Clinton told the ROTC commander at the University of Arkansas that he didn't feel good about his student deferment and was making himself available for the draft in order to maintain what was termed his political viability.
I was bitterly opposed to the war. I wanted to follow the law. I wanted to do what I had to do. And what is clear here is that I gave up my deferment before I had any idea what the lottery number would be.
ABC News says it got the letter from the former second-in-command at the Arkansas ROTC. Now, Clinton, who did enter the draft, drew a high lottery number and was never called. He said today the timing of the release of that letter was no coincidence. Of course, the New Hampshire primary is next Tuesday.
And still to come on the 9 o'clock news, a Hannibal Park man is indicted on 8 counts of bank robbery.
The CTA will undergo some major restructuring. And calming the terror of panic disorder. 2 people tell their stories as we continue that series of special reports.
The guy in the new Infiniti just discovered something about his car and about himself. He just discovered that the 18-year-old adventurer who loved to drive never left. Seems he's just been snoozing for the last, 20 years. And his new Q45 just woke him up. Without acne. Infiniti makes you want to take up driving again, doesn't it?
When I think of everything I put in my hair to make it shiny, more manageable, and all it took was a touch of VO5. Yeah, VO5.
VO5 hairdressing. A touch does so much.
Wow. I just tried VO5 for the first time. Yeah, the stuff in the tube your old man used for control. The stuff that's been around forever. Now I know why.
VO5 hairdressing. A touch does so much.
Spring is in the air at the Chicagoland Home and Garden Show with 8 glorious gardens and hundreds of ideas to brighten hearth and home. Meet Victory Gardens' Roger Swain and Yan Can Cook, plus expert seminars on remodeling, decorating, gardening, and cooking. Celebrity lifestyle rooms, the Main Street model home, and hundreds of exhibits are bursting with fresh ideas at the Chicagoland Home and Garden Show, O'Hare Expo Center, Thursday, February 13th through Sunday the 16th.
Rodney Dangerfield talks about relationships.
You gave him the best 3 months of your life, huh? Then he left you for a pail and shovel.
Marriage.
I know marriage is rough. It's not all moonlight and canoes. That's in the movies.
And easy money.
And they say money can't buy happiness.
If he can clean up his act, he'll inherit $10 million.
I don't want to be rich. We're not supposed to be rich.
Rodney Dangerfield, Easy Money. Friday night at 7 on Channel 9.
This Lazy Boy chair for $2.99 is a great deal, but 2 Lazy Boy chairs for $2.99, that's a steal. 2 great chairs, 1 great price. The factory-authorized Lazy Boy Gallery, 1-800-678-BOYS.
The CTA today adopted a sweeping reform package put together by an outside consultant. The reforms include major cuts in the CTA's administration and could save the transit system some $25 million. Joni Lum has more.
A private consulting firm told the CTA board what it already knows, that it must make radical changes to run a better system. One suggestion was aimed at the new executive director, change his title to president so that he can hire his own management team.
What I have committed to this board and to the city is very simple. We'll cut costs hard as we can cut them. I think what you're seeing here is a committed plan between now and June. It says nothing about going forward. There are going to have to be more going forward in terms of automation, in terms of aggressively pursuing a larger customer base.
Critics wonder how the CTA can attract more customers if they keep cutting services.
The places where they've cut are in service frequency. So the people have to wait longer for a vehicle, or they have to reorganize their day in order to keep their waiting time to keep it as short as possible. People respond to that. They're not happy about that.
The consultants say the CTA must try to make customers happy, but it will have to do it with less money, just like any other business. The board plans to do 4 things: roll back salaries, offer early retirement to 550 employees, privatize some services, and restructure the entire organization. That includes cutting up to 260 jobs. The board expects to save up to $25 million, but the plan won't bail the CTA out of debt. In fact, there might be more service cuts down the road.
Unless there's a dramatic reversal of our economic conditions, or unless we get funds from either Springfield or Washington, I would suspect that it is inevitable.
The consultants repeatedly pointed out one thing they found disturbing, that the CTA has lost sight of its customers. They say if they hadn't lost that focus, maybe they wouldn't have the problems they're having now. Joni Lum, WGN News.
And the job cuts and other changes are expected to be carried out by the end of June.
Jeffrey Erickson, the so-called bearded bandit, was indicted today on 8 counts of bank robbery and 1 count of attempted murder. Authorities say Erickson wore fake beards and mustaches to disguise himself as he held up 7 banks in the northwest suburbs and 1 bank in Chicago. Erickson also faces state charges of attempted murder for shooting and slightly wounding Palatine police officer Kevin Maher last fall. Erickson, who police call a crafty criminal, was arrested in December. On that same day, his wife, 27-year-old Jill Erickson, tried to flee but was killed following a chase and a shootout with police.
Frankly, they weren't so sophisticated that they couldn't evade the FBI and the local police here. They eventually get caught, and that's the message we're sending, that if you think you're sophisticated enough to do this, you're eventually going to get caught.
In a second unrelated case, federal officials today also announced the indictment of Orville Lippens of Elgin. Lippens is accused of robbing 4 area banks between September and December of last year.
3 million Americans suffer from a disorder many of them can't name, and many of their doctors don't know how to diagnose.
Tonight, the details on panic disorder as Allison continues her series of special reports, Mind, Drugs, Prescription for Health. Yeah.
Rick, the National Institute of Mental Health says that panic disorder is a serious illness and one of the most misunderstood. This is especially disturbing because panic disorder is highly treatable. Not long ago, it would have been impossible for Edith and her mother Lenore to sit in a restaurant and casually order lunch. Both women suffer from panic disorder.
I woke up one morning and my heart was racing and I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand. I was pacing the floors. And then at some point where I used to try going to sleep at night, wake up out of a sound sleep.
Panic disorder is not simply a bad case of the jitters. It is a disabling condition, unpredictable and terrifying. So what does a panic attack feel like? Well, imagine standing in the middle of the expressway with cars whizzing by at 100 miles an hour. Your blood is racing, your heart is pounding, and you're filled with a sense of terror. Well, that's the feeling that people who suffer from panic disorder get under the most ordinary circumstances, like standing in the supermarket or talking on the phone. It doesn't make any sense, but they feel like they're in mortal danger.
We are here on behalf of 3 million Americans who suffer from panic disorder.
Panic disorder is such a major problem that the National Institute of Mental Health asked reporters to come to the Washington Press Club to help spread the word on panic. Among those who need to learn about it are primary care physicians. Doctors often miss the diagnosis because the symptoms of panic disorder can mimic a heart attack or other physical problems.
People with this disorder will go through an odyssey of seeking proper diagnosis and treatment. Often that odyssey can last 5 to 10 years, and on average, people will see about 10 different physicians, often in emergency room settings, before they have an adequate diagnosis and treatment.
The cost of diagnosing panic disorder is staggering. The NIMH estimates that half of all angiograms are performed on people who suffer from panic disorder, not heart disease. $30 million in wasted angiography alone. Meanwhile, patients continue to suffer.
It would scare you because you think, my God, what's wrong with me?
That is the most debilitating thing, and that is that people develop a fear of fear. They develop a sense that they're going to have another attack, and they start avoiding being somewhere where they couldn't get help if they needed it, or being in a situation where having an attack could be very embarrassing to them.
The NIMH also figures that on average, panic disorder sufferers lose 2.5 years of work. Many go on disability, and they may turn to alcohol or drugs, or worse.
They have high rates of suicide
And suicide attempts among this population, 20% of them at some time during their lives will try to take their own life, and this is 20 times higher than it is in the general population. The message also is one of great hope.
Less than a year ago, the FDA approved the drug Xanax for panic disorder. It is the only drug specifically approved for panic on the market. It has dramatic effects.
And when you treat it with something like Xanax, you can expect 100% resolution of symptoms.
Both Edith and Lenore are in therapy with Dr. Zajeka at Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's Medical Center, and both take Xanax.
The Xanax is more or less like to calm you down, and it's done wonders. I mean, me sitting right here, I would have to be.
I have no problems. Now I'm working. I was able to go ahead and find myself a part-time job. I'm working as of now. I feel a heck of a lot better than what I did before. It's just like a complete 180-degree turn in the right direction this time.
Doctors at the NIMH say that with the right therapy, 90% of the people with panic disorder can be helped, but awareness is key. And Xanax is the most commonly prescribed of all psychiatric drugs because it is used to treat other disorders as well as panic. Drowsiness is the most frequent side effect. Another danger, the drug can be habit-forming. Of course, doctors are the best people to turn to for help. One place offering free therapy on panic and other anxiety disorders is Rush Presbyterian. Doctors there are looking for patients who meet certain criteria to take part in clinical studies. Contact the Treatment Research Unit at 312-942-3532 for details. And tomorrow, the controversial drug Prozac. Does it make depressed people better, or can it make them worse? We'll have details tomorrow at 9.
In college basketball, DePaul welcomes back an old friend.
Yeah, but this time he's on the other side. Dan Roan is next with sports.
And I'm Tom Skilling in the Weather Office. Light snow expected, but a big pattern change may carry 2 more significant weather systems at us over the next week and a half. We'll have details on that coming up.
Are you ready to rock and roll?
It's showtime in New York. Pat Riley has got them slamming and jamming, but the real stars are coming to town, and it looks like showtime is just beginning. The Bulls invade the Big Apple to show Patrick a little Midwestern hospitality. The stage is set for a big-time battle when the Bulls meet the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, Thursday night at 6:30 right here on Channel 9.
Any questions? I remember my very first audition, and I couldn't get the words out. I thought like that. I stopped and I tried it, and I think they thought I was doing a Marlon Brando audition. I still do it now sometimes.
When a kid tells you you're dumb, you know that they don't mean it because, well, they don't know much, but like if a grown-up tells you that you're dumb, you know that they know a lot and they would know if you're dumb or smart.
Yeah, I remember when I was 12 years old, all those years of being intimidated and scared and teased and all that. They always teased me in front of girls too.
Yes.
See, but you knew you were smart. You see, you see, everybody else didn't know you were smart, but you knew you were smart. If your child has problems learning, have them diagnosed, because they may suffer from dyslexia. And who knows? They may be smarter than you think. Aren't you, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. and handsome too, ain't he?
Each year, Consumer's Digest magazine analyzes all the new automobiles. Those of outstanding value are designated Best Buys. So imagine Buick's pride when Consumer's Digest recognized 3 new Buick models. Park Avenue, the most advanced luxury car Buick has ever built. Roadmaster, powerful, roomy, substantial. The all-new LeSabre, America's best-selling full-size car. Now, low 2.9% GMAC financing means big savings on every new Buick. See your Better Buick dealer today.
WGN is proud to recognize the achievements of all African Americans during Black History Month.
Do you ever feel like giving up?
I plan to divorce my wife and to just give it all up.
Is your life out of control?
And I knew it was wrong, but I honestly, physically could not quit.
The solution to your problem is closer than you think.
Through Christ, He had the answers that I needed to get up and get going again.
Watch Success in Life and find out what your life's missing. Look for Success in Life weekday mornings at 6 on WGN.
Dan Roan with the Wednesday Night Sports Report. College hoops on page 1.
Absolutely, and a big game out at the Rosemont Horizon tonight. DePaul's Joey Meyer and Jim Molinari of Bradley, old friends trying to beat each other's brains in tonight at the Horizon. DePaul looking to load up some wins for the NCAA. Bradley struggling and looking for some prestige against the Blue Demons, but didn't get it tonight. Here they are, Jim Molinari, who spent a lot of years as a DePaul assistant working with his good buddy Joey Meyer. One thing Jimmy didn't expect tonight was the barrage of three-pointers he got hit with in the first half. David Booth there. Next time down the floor, Howard Nathan for 3 more.
Nathan, top of the circle.
And finish it up with Joe Doherty coming up from long distance. The Blue Demons would hit their first 5 from beyond the stripe, and they led it 38-23 at halftime. Give Bradley credit in the second half. They hung in there. The Braves behind James Hamilton cut the lead to 11 a couple of times and had the ball, but DePaul was too strong and too quick to lose it. Terry Davis, a couple of late hoops, and DePaul rolls to its 15th victory, 68-50 over Bradley. Right now, let's head out live to the Rosemont Horizon, where Rich King is standing by with a couple of guests who had a vested interest in this game tonight. Rich.
That's right, Dan. You mentioned a big game, Jim Molinari and Joe Meyer. This is the third meeting between the two gentlemen, and Joey now leads the series 2-1. And joining us now are the two head coaches of Bradley and DePaul, Joe Meyer here, and of course Jim Molinari. Joe, he got you last year in NIU when he was coaching there, but you got him tonight.
It has something to do with talent, you know what I mean? We had a little more talent tonight. Our kids were playing. He hit us at a spot where we're playing pretty good basketball, and we just have more horses than he does.
Jim, how about tonight's game? Tough one for you.
Well, we're a program that's building, but one thing for Dan, it's good that he didn't have to do this game on Channel 9, but I'm sure he appreciates that. That would have really tested his talent. But I thought that, this is a good DePaul team. We stayed off them. They hit 5 threes. Joey's done a good job of moving different guys in. I like this DePaul team, and we just got to try to build a program at Bradley.
Well, I'm sure Dan would have made it sing regardless of the outcome. Joe, what is it like? We've asked this before, but here's the third meeting between you two. What's it like coaching against a former assistant?
It was difficult the first year, trying to adjust, because you want to beat him, but then, he's doing a good job and you're pulling for him. It was a tough situation, and in the first couple of years, really, it was more difficult. I felt a little bit better tonight because I knew I had more players than he did. That always makes the relationship better when you think you got more talent.
How about your reaction, Jim, third time around?
Well, I also think this, I want our program to win. Even last year, I wanted our program to win. But it's never fun to beat a real close friend or lose to a close friend. But this is your job. You compete. And Joey and I, when it's over, and we call, and he helps me with my team, and I really appreciate that about it.
Well, you two know each other's strategy. I know in a game like this it didn't help, but last year you mentioned that. Do you know how Joey thinks?
Well, he called 10 today, and I was yelling at it. At least he could have changed the numbers. He hadn't changed them in about 8 years, but he called 10, and I'm telling our team, and Booth comes over and says, you know what we're going to do? I go, that's right, David.
What about that?
I know, I told our kids he's going to know what we're going to do, but I'm not changing for anybody. So we called 10, and I knew he'd know, but hey, we did get a steal on one of those anyway, even though they knew it was coming.
DePaul going red hot, Joe. You have to be pleased. Another victory tonight. 15-6 right now.
15-6, and we have 6 games to go before the tourney, our conference tournament, and we feel good about how we're playing right now. But we have Louisville, Cincinnati, and Florida State coming up, so we'll really be tested.
Brief perspective on Bradley. A tough record this year, 6-17.
Right. Well, I just say, when we took the program, we knew it'd be a challenge. I didn't know it'd be this great a challenge, but all the ingredients are there for a strong program. I think we'll get there someday.
Okay, and Louisville coming up. What about that?
Well, obviously, they got a lot of horses. Every time I say that, Denny Crump gets mad at me, but he has a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent. Okay, now we're equal on that. But no, he has a real good team, and they're playing real well, and they beat Kansas at Kansas, and that scares me.
Okay, Dan, that about wraps it up. So Joe Meyer leads the series now, 2-1, and if you'd have done this game, I'm sure you'd have made it sing, like I said earlier. Exciting game if Dan Roan does it, right?
I don't know about that, but good job out there anyway. I thought we were getting gone with the wind there for a second. Well, there are a couple of other college games tonight, including a monumental upset in the Big Ten involving Indiana. The Hoosiers playing up in Minnesota, where the Gophers have claimed a lot of victims on that raised court. Tonight they got another one. Calbert Cheney there for the Hoosiers trying to keep it close, but Minnesota stood tall in its own building tonight. Nate Tubbs put it on the floor, 62-58 Gophers, and they were going to hang on. The same Minnesota team lost by 46 points at Indiana 4 weeks ago, but not tonight. They were waiting for that clock to finally run out, and they went nuts in Minneapolis when it did. Minnesota upsets 4th-ranked Indiana 71-67 tonight. Other Big Ten games, Michigan over Iowa by 5, and Michigan State beat Wisconsin 76-61. Top-ranked Duke also in action tonight. Tough road game in Atlanta against Georgia Tech. Duke down by as many as 5 in the first half, but here they come. Thomas Hill from Cherokee Parks, 23-20. Blue Devils back on top. Then the awesome play by Grant Hill. Watch this dunk off the assist from Brian Davis, falling backwards, and he still got it in there. Right now, 45-37, Duke on top in the second half. Apparently, Martina Navratilova is not conceding anything to Steffi Graf at Chicago's Virginia Slims. Last night, Graf shut out her first-round opponent. Tonight, Martina beat Hallie Chiaffi 6-love and 6-love. Graf, the number 1 seed, Martina number 2. Earlier this afternoon, Chicago and Linda Harvey-Wild up against third-seeded Zina Garrison. These two played last year, and Garrison won easily. Today, it wasn't so easy. Zina did win this point, but she was taken to 6-4 in the opening set by Harvey-Wild. In the second set, Linda put on even more pressure. She's in far court here, dominating this point, and eventually winning with the overhead. This set went to a tiebreaker, but Garrison was able to retake control there. She won the tiebreak 7-2, won the match in straight sets, and said she had a good time doing it.
A couple months ago, I would have lost that match, but I've been working really hard and playing really mentally tough. Been playing with some of the top players really tough, so I feel that I'm working back into my game, and most of all, I'm having fun out there.
Short on time, Bonnie Blair, the speed skater from Champaign, did not win a medal in the 1500, but she can't wait for the 1000 later on the weekend.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Still to come on the 9 o'clock news, news analyst Joel Wiseman on what Abe Lincoln might have thought about modern-day politics.
And later, a new study that shows girls may be shortchanged in school.
With U.S. savings bonds and the payroll savings plan, you can save a little or a lot every payday. So make it a habit and watch your savings grow.
I thought I was going blind, but I didn't have enough money to do anything about it.
The National Eye Care Project offers medical eye care to those in need. If you are 65 or older and do not have an ophthalmologist, please call 1-800-222-EYES.
Sight is so precious. If you need help, call 1-800-222-EYES.
That you will always have a friend here at Carver High. Congratulations!
Decide what you're going to do after graduation, Michael.
Yep, I'm going to go home and make a sandwich.
Well
done, Michael. Hey, how you doing, Mr. D? I'm fine. Listen, what are you doing after graduation? I don't know. I think about going home and brushing the teeth and combing the hair. Hey, what's up, girl? We made it.
Hey, I couldn't have gotten through physics without you.
Yeah, well, you're on your own at college.
It's not fair.
It's all right. I'm going to get a job, start working, I'm save. I'll be in college in another year or two.
So, what do you have planned, Mike?
I think I'm going to go home and make a sandwich. Okay.
Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Today is Abraham Lincoln's birthday, and in honor of the event, it seems fitting to look at politics then and now. Our news analyst Joel Wiseman is here and thinks Lincoln might cast his familiar frown on today's style of campaigning. Joel?
Allison, if Abraham Lincoln could see the process now, days before the first major primary in New Hampshire, he might use his axe for more than splitting rails. As many voters across the country first move into the presidential election mode, rather than splitting hairs between the various candidate positions on health care, taxes, and foreign trade, we see the focus once again on the horse race. Major stories are not usually about Kerry's plan for health care, Tsongas' unusual Democratic economic positions, Clinton's vision of America, Harkin's modified New Deal, or even Jerry Brown's abhorrence of traditional political fundraising. There is instead an obsession with polls and their offspring, overnight tracking data, an obsession with how badly Clinton has been hurt by adultery and draft dodging charges, and whether Mario Cuomo will indeed be lured into the race. On the Republican side, we're not obsessed with Bush's long and short-range economic programs, but with poll results on job approval and Pat Buchanan's read his lips ads. Now, Lincoln and his arch-rival Stephen Douglas set many issue debate standards in their comprehensive campaigns. Today's candidates too debate, but their debates serve as backdrops for TV commercials, catchphrases, or failing to clearly distinguish themselves from one another on issues, leading to labels like the Democratic six-pack. The point is, on this Lincoln's birthday, celebrated for a man some historians admit was actually too substantive and lengthy on the campaign trail, we are faced with candidates obsessed with form and a media more obsessed with poll impact and those so-called character disclosures rather than campaign issues. And to think we have months of future polls, trackings, and character stories, and yes, voyeurism, and you have to wonder what Lincoln would do with his axe today. Happy birthday, Abe. I'm Joel Wiseman, and happy birthday to Allison Payne, a Lincoln birthday's baby.
Thank you, Joel.
Markedly younger than the former president.
See you Friday.
Some light snow headed our way. Tom Skilling next with a weather forecast.
And later, an adventure in candy making at another of Chicago's very own.
Before the written word, human progress was slow. Then man learned to write and print and communicate with words in new ways. But words are meaningless to 27 million Americans who can't read.
Not being able to read is no disgrace, but it's sad to miss so much when help is available. Reading is the key to knowledge and the key to America's future. Learn to read and unlock a whole new world. If you know someone who can't read, please call this number.
Hi, I'm Donald O'Connor, chairman of this year's National VA Salute to Hospitalized Veterans. I've enjoyed many roles over the years, stage, TV, Hollywood musicals. I've even co-starred with the Talking Mule. But no role was as important to me than my service in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II. Now behind me is a VA medical center. Here, veterans who served our country from World War I to Desert Storm receive hospital care. Here you'll find neighborhood volunteers, people just like you, donating a couple of hours a week. And here we see volunteers helping veterans with pet therapy. And these children are visiting older veterans. Volunteers also help hospitalized veterans enjoy a wide variety of sports. Join me as a volunteer. Call your local VA medical center. It's a role I think you'll enjoy.
Imagine this is Florida, and that's Walt Disney World, SeaWorld, Universal Studios, Epcot Center. And this is Kissimmee St. Cloud, offering the closest and most affordable accommodations in the middle of Central Florida's best attractions. Call 1-800-238-KISS, and we'll send you our free vacation guide with information on affordable hotels and campgrounds. So if you can stay here, why stay anywhere else? Kissimmee St. Cloud. Location is our biggest attraction.
Tonight's weather segment is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, offering everyday low fares and convenient flights to many exciting destinations.
Southwest Airlines and Midway Airport, just plain smart.
Well, parts of downstate Illinois have 2 to 4 inches of snow on the ground. The snow has largely come to an end down there. There's a little drizzle in its wake as this weather system moves through the southern Midwest, but clouds gathering out in Iowa tonight will be coming our way with some light snow tonight and tomorrow morning. We've had reports of up to a ½ an inch out by Monmouth, which is southeast of Moline already, and there may be a dusting of snow, but we're not expecting a major snow event out of this because most of the moisture is being soaked up down here by the precipitation falling in this area, which may yet accumulate 4 to 6 inches in scattered areas of Indiana, southern Ohio, parts of far northeast Kentucky, and areas down there. What's going on is we've got 2 little waves running up the backside of this cold polar air mass, and they're pulling moisture up over this shallow cool air mass in what's called overrunning. This is where you send that moisture up above a dome of cool air, and as it condenses in contact with that cool air, you begin to snow into it. So that's what's going to create our snow. Not a very powerful situation precipitation as the main energy with a jet stream is way south of us. You can see how thin these clouds are up in this area, but they'll be enough to keep us pretty gray and gloomy during the day tomorrow. A more important system, though, is headed this way, and by Friday night and Saturday, real questions about what this may do to us. It will be either rain or rain changing to snow, and we might have to watch that. Then there's another system coming off the same storm system that set up off California that's been producing troubles. This is supposed to develop a real major storm by early next week. This is something we mentioned to you last night. Whether that will be rain or snow, a little bit in doubt yet too. The models are leaning toward rain, and we'll have to watch that very closely at that time. But in the short term, here's this overrunning area coming up over a warm front. Then the next and more important system is approaching by Friday, but will not reach us until Friday night and Saturday with the main precipitation. Then slightly cooler air will dump in over the weekend, and there's the next storm upstream. Well, we've been sitting gazing at the satellite imagery of wave after wave of precipitation off the El Nino warm Pacific hitting the west coast. Some areas have had 11 inches of rain, up to 3 or more feet of snow down in the mountains out there. And a change in our pattern will start bringing some of that energy our way, because the polar air mass is going to pull a little farther north. Warmth will expand a little farther north, pushing the jet streams that up till now have been producing their rains down on the Gulf Coast closer and closer to us, and putting us in line for these wet weather systems starting in the next couple of days. So we not only have that one late Friday and Saturday, but another one early next week, and maybe one beyond that by the middle of next week. High today in Chicago was 30 degrees, and that's 34 yesterday. It's about a 4-degree drop over that. Light snow is on the way tonight again, just a dusting, maybe a half an inch in spots. There are advisories for heavier snow, including winter storm warnings south and east of us, but the snow that we'll be seeing will be shared by folks in Wisconsin, upper Michigan, and Minnesota, parts of Iowa, and it should be pretty much on the light side the way it looks right now. Temperatures will not move much overnight. We're in the upper 20s with a wind chill index of 21, a falling barometer, and there is the next weather system, the first of the two to come in. This is expected to track through central Illinois, and we are in that questionable area close to the rain-snow line. We'll have to watch that very, very closely. 7-day temps warm briefly Friday, and again early next week. That will be around those storm systems which bring precipitation into the area, and then cooler by midweek next week. Overcast tonight, some occasional light snow, not as cold. Temperatures down to 24 and southeast winds at 4 to 12. Tomorrow, still gray, some light snow principally in the morning. Milder, there'll be a little haze in the air in the afternoon, and we'll break the freeze mark at 37 light variable winds during the day. Tomorrow night, cloudy, hazy, maybe a flake or a touch of freezing drizzle, nothing terribly important, and a low down to 27. And still overcast on Friday, maybe some daytime drizzle, more general rain or snow developing at night. That's when the main system arrives, and a messy day on Saturday. And we'll be updating that on the midday and 9 o'clock news in the days ahead as well, Rick and Allison.
Okay, Thomas, thank you.
You bet.
Sears announces hundreds of layoffs. Our business report is next.
Including why first-time homebuyers are scrambling to enter the market, and an unusual way of trying to find a job.
What are your teeth worth to you?
Millions. Priceless. Like fine art.
They're worth everything. I'd hate to have to replace them.
1.2 million.
Gotta be worth more than this cap.
My teeth are worth everything to me because I love to eat. You never know when we were smiling if we didn't have teeth.
Well, my teeth are very important. My teeth are the pearls of my mouth. They're priceless.
That's the way it is.
Don't take your teeth for granted.
They said it could never happen. No one listened. No one believed. Soon, no one will be left. No rules, no honor. Only vengeance. Ninja 3, The Domination. Thursday night at 11:30 on Channel 9.
I think all musicians are mathematicians. In order to give your music a certain natural balance and form and symmetry and logic, you will hear things in relation to mathematical shapes. Math is a very important discipline. It's something that you should definitely know. Hi, I'm Wynton Marsalis, here to say that math equals opportunity. We can't cheat ourselves out of our future. Check math out.
Sometimes the wrong gift is worse than no gift at all.
For the perfect gift, call Flowerline 1-800-858-5856 anytime and send fresh flowers. Order early for guaranteed Valentine's Day delivery. Flowers are always in style, always appreciated. For more than 30 years, Flowerline has delivered anywhere. Why send this when you could send this? Call Flowerline 1-800-858-5856.
Sit up. Up. Roll over. Over. Now, beg. Beg. Good boy.
Edie's. Evidently, it's not your normal chocolate chip.
In business news tonight, Sears Roebuck & Company is eliminating about 600 jobs nationwide because of the recession. Most of the layoffs will affect management personnel. Sears executives say they are closing all 10 of the company's regional offices and plan deep cuts in the number of district offices as well. A Sears spokesman says more layoffs are expected later this year. On Wall Street, another new record high today. Speculation that the Fed may further ease credit sent the Dow Jones Industrial Average up another 25 points plus to 3276 and change, breaking the old record of 3272 that had been set last week. Trading once again today very heavy.
Despite the recession, first-time home buyers are having a field day. It's estimated that about half of the homes being sold these days are going to people who have never owned a home before. Paul Verkaman tells why.
It's been a long time since the housing market looked so attractive to first-time home buyers. Home prices are soft, mortgage rates are low, and there's a generous tax break promised. Home buyers are responding.
We saw them start to come back in the middle of January, and now for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had more inquiries from first-time home buyers than we've had for many months.
Last spring, 36% of all homes purchased were bought by first-timers. By the summer, it was 39%, and in late fall, 42%. Preliminary estimates for the current period suggest that more than half of the homes sold will now go to those who've never owned before. And there's some good An important incentive is the tax break proposed by President Bush and now up for debate in Congress.
I think it could add another 200,000 units this year, taking it from what we originally thought was about 1.2 million to maybe 1.4 million, which is up 40% from last year.
It's a $5,000 tax credit for first-time buyers. That's a straight dollar-for-dollar cut in their tax bill, enough to wipe out all federal taxes for some people. If Congress approves the measure, it would apply to people who bought their homes after February 1st. More Americans can apparently afford to buy. What the realtors call their Housing Affordability Index is now at its best level since 1974. Paul Verkaman, CNN Business News, New York.
Well, finding a job in these tough economic times can be tough itself, but one man may have hit on the ultimate attention-getting resume. Unemployed Pete Condon copied his qualifications onto a sandwich board, put it over his best job-hunting suit, and spent the day advertising himself to downtown rush hour traffic in Atlanta. He says motorists laughed, some beeped their horns, a lot of them gave him the thumbs up. Even better, he said a few drivers did take down his phone number. Condon, as you might suspect, is looking for a job in advertising or in marketing, and we understand his unique signboard produced at least one job interview.
Good for him. And coming up, a new study showing a bias against girls in school.
Plus a new spin on the latest local production of Phantom of the Opera. Roy Leonard will have that review.
Now it can be told, this was a war unlike any in history, the first war in which air power decided the victory. Now, for the first time, you can be there with the elite pilots of Operation Desert Storm as they rumble across the desert and into history. Time Life Video and Aviation Week present Thunder in the Gulf, the newest, hottest volume in the Air Power video library. Newly released exclusive footage helps you see, hear, feel what it's like to scramble full throttle into the jaws of war.
First thing we had to do is seize control of the air.
See the EF-111 electrify the air, blinding Iraqi radar. The F-16 fighter engaged in more sorties than any other aircraft. And exclusive new footage of the bat-like stealth attack fighter in action. This is how Air Power set new records during 40 days of fury and 40 nights of airborne terror.
I'm trying to look over to my left side here into Baghdad. The whole sky is filled with AAA.
Thunder in the Gulf puts you in the cockpit of Operation Desert Storm as only Aviation Week and space technology can. Call this toll-free number Remember to order Thunder in the Gulf for only $9.99. Air Power is the video library pilots collect. When you keep Thunder in the Gulf, other Air Power videos will follow about every 6 weeks at the regular price, and there's never any commitment to buy. In Flight Deck, you'll catapult from zero to hero in the F-14 Tomcat. In Modern Air Combat, you'll go supersonic and mix it up in the night-fighting FA-18 Hornet. In air superiority, you'll dominate the skies in the hot F-15 Eagle and train with the best in fighter pilots' Red Flag. Air war will never be the same, and neither will you after experiencing Thunder in the Gulf.
That's the one I've been looking for. Good hit. I repeat, good hit.
Call now to order your first video, Thunder in the Gulf, for only $9.99.
Roger. Copy that.
To order your Air Power video, call 1-800-535-1700. That's 1-800-535-1700. Or send $9.99 plus $3.23 shipping and handling to Thunder in the Gulf, P.O. Box 1880, Department CM, Alexandria, Virginia. Or call 1-800-535-1700.
They say it's not happening on purpose, apparently, but a new study of America's elementary and high schools still finds girls are not getting a fair shake in the classroom. The study, commissioned by the American Association of University Women, cites a subtle but pervasive bias against women in tests, textbooks, and teaching methods.
Education is not a spectator sport, and when girls are watching boys in classroom interaction, they're losing ground.
When girls come into school, they start ahead on test scores. When they leave, they're behind.
The researchers say the biggest gender gap is in the sciences. The study says that gap may be widening. Now, the Education Department, which last month tried to cut the only federal program on education equity for girls, responds by saying the report lacks hard data and perspective.
How many new ways can you tell the same old story? Well, when it comes to the Phantom of the Opera, at least one more way. Roy Leonard says the Southwest Suburban Theater has put a new spin on the popular play.
Another version of the Gaston Leroux story, Phantom of the Opera, was not really on my must-see list. I mean, I was lucky enough to see the Andrew Lloyd Webber version a couple of times, suffered through that Ken Hill production, and that ponderous version out at Drury Lane Theater last year. So what could they do that was different? Well, leave it up to Bill Polinsky at Candlelight Dinner Playhouse. He has put together a marvelous musical called The Phantom. This version of the famous story begins on a busy Paris boulevard where Christine Daae is singing and selling chic music. A wealthy benefactor suggests a visit to the director of the opera will bring an audition, not knowing that the business has been sold to a famous singer called Carlotta and her husband. Well, Carlotta needs no competition, so she sends the young girl to the costume shop. Christine is not aware of the history of what has been going on inside the Paris Opera. There have been reports of a ghost, but over the years, no harm has come to anyone. The Phantom's name is Eric. He appreciates beautiful music, and Christine's voice brings him up from the depths of the building. Karen Lee is Christine, and Scott Sheffer, the Phantom. The twists on the Phantom story that we are used to are really quite refreshing here. The Arthur Coppett story, the music of Maury Yeston, and particularly the spectacular staging really make this a musical well worth seeing. Phantom. It's at the Candlelight Dinner Playhouse. I'm Roy Leonard.
Still to come, Sweets for the Sweet, another of Chicago's very own.
I'm Al Hofeld. You know, growing up, it was just my mother and me. Without scholarships and student loans, I never would have made it. But for many of our kids today, the ladder I climbed has been pulled up. So I have a plan to provide college or training to all of our kids, to be repaid as a small percentage of their future earnings, and with a break for those who enter critical jobs like nursing or teaching. I'll bet on our kids, just like someone bet on me.
Paid for by Hofeld for U.S. Senate.
This new refrigerator will last about 16 years. Chances are good it'll outlast the superstore it came from. People have counted on Sears, however, for over 100 years, so we'll be there when you need us. And now you can count on great values like America's largest usable capacity Kenmore washer and matching dryer. Or this Kenmore dishwasher with China wash and 3-level spray, now $50 off. Only at Sears.
And they're off. Get out of the house is first. Live a Little is right behind. And it's hearts a pounding, followed by temperatures rising, and kids are welcome. Make a Buck is looking good. And here they come. It's get out of the house and live a little. Get out of the house and live a little. They're Ken Nick.
There is one sure thing at Sportsman's Park. It's always fun.
And it's lots of laughs.
Our dentist recommended baking soda.
But we wanted tartar control.
Arm & Hammer Dental Care gives us both.
Now Arm & Hammer Dental Care just introduced the only tartar control toothpaste with baking soda.
And brushing with baking soda,
or baking soda toothpaste,
is recommended by 2 out of 3 dentists to help provide healthy teeth and gums.
Only Arm & Hammer Dental Care gives us the tartar control we want.
And the baking soda our dentist recommends.
New Arm & Hammer Dental Care tartar control.
From the baking soda experts.
A lot of car dealers are shouting about low-rate financing, but one plan stands out. Low 2.9% GMAC financing on Buick quality. See your better Buick dealer.
You discover the crime. You piece together the puzzle.
On this question of fingerprints,
Perry Mason. Weekday mornings at 9 on Channel 9.
It can happen so fast. You're in an emergency room and you can't speak. That's when Medical Alert speaks for you. It helps us give you the best possible care fast. A call to Medical Alert gives us vital information about conditions, medicines, physicians, and family. Medical Alert helps us save lives.
Millions worldwide depend on Medical Alert protection. To learn more, call Medical Alert, 1-800-ID-ALERT. That's 1-800-ID-ALERT.
A gentle reminder that Valentine's Day is the day after tomorrow. Cards and flowers, always welcome. So is candy for that special someone. And in that context, tonight, Steve Sanders spotlights a place for which Valentine's Day is the busiest day of the year. An adventure in candy making and another of Chicago's very own.
Even the little tykes are preparing to ask someone to be their Valentine. And for more than 3/4 of a century, it's been done with flowers and candy. Chances are, Fannie Mae Candy. This is a company whose roots go back to the turn of the century in Chicago. It was then that local real estate mogul Teller Archibald decided there could be a sweet profit in making candy.
The philosophy of Teller Archibald was very simple. Make the very best candy he could, always sell it fresh, and sell it at the most reasonable price possible. And people have come to expect that, and they still do, and we haven't let them down.
For some 75 years, all that mouth-watering candy has come from the same location on Chicago's near West Side. It was here that the company was founded in 1915. Just 5 years later, Fannie Mae's first retail outlet was opened on LaSalle Street. The 20s were a prosperous decade that saw the company expand throughout the Midwest. But by the 30s, the Great Depression had taken a major bite out of the candy business. But Fannie Mae survived by adhering to a fanatical devotion to quality. The chocolate runs like a river inside this vintage West Side candy factory, or kitchen as the company likes to call it. The Trinidad, a tasty buttercream treat with a yellow coating and a chocolate surprise on the inside. Here you can get a sugar high by just watching as vats of goo are poured onto a cooling tray. Toffee hand-stretched, and mints dropped with a rhythmic precision. It's as though these candies just off the conveyor belt are already searching nervously for a sweet tooth. Despite a high degree of automation, there are some delicacies that simply can't be made on a machine.
The ladies actually hand dip them one at a time. And there's a lot of skill involved because there's a special design pattern, and it takes them really years to learn that and perfect the skills.
Wasn't it P.T. Barnum who said, "A sucker is born every minute"? Here it's more like a sucker born every 2 seconds. Just outside the kitchens is Fannie Mae's company store, where employees are gearing up for the busiest day of the year. It's expected some 10,000 customers will visit this store on Valentine's Day. And Bob Boza is getting a head start, buying $66 worth of candy. Who all does this go to?
Well, my two nieces.
My grandson.
And my grandson. I go to usually the Saturday before Valentine's Day and make sure she gets her candy.
Well, she's here. How are you going to surprise her?
Not. I'm just paying for it. That's her surprise.
They make it easy to be a kid in a candy store. Fannie Mae, one of Chicago's very own.
Suppose Mr. Boza knows how to find us?
Yeah. I want a box of everything. Okay.
You're on Friday.
And that's our news for tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Allison.
I'm Rick Rosenthal. We'll see you tomorrow night for the 9 o'clock news. Good night.